Hello, I am going to be working on a few characters for the Dungeon Under the Mountain, some encounters, and a few creatures for a specific area of the dungeon. So we'll get started with Hero Lab. If you've not used Hero Lab, I highly recommend it, especially if you're a DM. It will save you a ton of time and actually make your characters a lot better. The characters I'm going to be working on is going to be a creature called a Fenris Wolf. So we will go ahead and work on a base. We'll change it to non-player character, basic monster stats, and alliance enemy of the party. I will leave everything else default. And go into the character. First thing we're going to do is choose a race. We're going to go down and find Basic Wolf. For this dungeon, Fenris Wolves will be creatures that are spawned from the plane of Pandemonium. I use the old school AD&D outer planes. So Pandemonium is a chaotic neutral, chaotic evil plane of existence. We are going to make the wolf chaotic evil. And go over here to abilities. Since we're using the base abilities, we can change 3 of these up by 1. We'll just do the physical stats for this one. Strength, Dex, and Con. And go back to class. Since this is just going to be our base wolf, and I just noticed I misspelled wolf. That's really a good way to start this. But we are going to go to Fiendish and add the Fiendish template to the wolf. Apparently I think this is a Star Trek character because I named it Worf instead of Wolf. Okay, oops. So what I'll be doing now that I've got the Fiendish template added to it, I am going to make a change to the Fiendish template. Let me just make sure that it, under preview, the Fiendish template grants the wolf cold resistance 5, fire resistance 5, and spell resistance 6. We're going to be taking off the cold resistance and replacing it with acid resistance. This is going to be specific for this type of wolf. So we're going to go to personal and go down to permanent adjustments. The easiest way to find anything maneuvering through Hero Lab is to use your search at the top. Let's see, we do not want resistance, energy resistance, special abilities. We're going to go to this energy resistance. This allows you to select this adjustment to add energy resistance to your character. going to do is select cold, energy resistance cold. And I believe I need to change that. It's not under energy resistance. It's not under energy resistance, it's under energy resistance bonus. I get those two confused sometimes. I'm going to select energy resistance cold 5, and I'm going to reduce that down to -5. That will take off the energy resistance cold. Then I'm going to go back into energy resistance. Energy resistance acid, and raise that to 5. Now if I go back under print preview, it should change my energy resistance from cold to acid 5 and to fire. Now since this is just a base template, this will be the standard Fenris Wolf that I will be using for most of my random encounters, and for a few static creatures scattered throughout the dungeon, or the area of the dungeon that's known as the Howling Halls. So I'm going to go up here to save portfolio as, and I'm going to save it in a new folder. Okay. Now that gets the standard Fenris Wolf. That's a CR1 creature, which is what I was shooting for with this one. Now we're going to make a new one, and we're going to go back to Save Portfolio As. And we're going to do a pup. And this one should be relatively easy to do. We're going to use a template, young creature. So we're going to change pretty much nothing other than adding the young template to the Fenris Wolf. That seems to have changed everything correctly. And we'll go ahead and save the Fenris Wolf young pup. Now the next one we're going to be doing is a pack leader. This creature we want to make a CR2. So let's go back up to Save Portfolio As. And I believe I want to name that Pack Hunter, not Pack Leader. Okay. I'm going to take off the young template, which was on there from the other one. Oops. And we need to try to make this one a CR2 encounter. So we're going to add an additional hit dice. Now adding an additional hit dice to the wolf increases the number of skill points and the number of feats that you can use with this creature. gives you one additional skill point. And I believe we're going to put that under stealth. Make him just a little bit more sneaky. And as far as feats go, we are going to add weapon focus. And go down here till we find bot. Go into preview again. That makes his bite a little bit more deadly, a +5 to hit instead of a +3. That's because of the weapon focus and the increased hit dice. Acid and fire resistance stay the same, but spell resistance went up 1. Okay, that looks good for the pack hunter. I'll go ahead and save that. Now we're going to do the next step up in our Fenris wolves, and this is going to be a unique creature. This is going to be our beta, who we are naming Baluzar. This is going to be our beta wolf. This one I want to do a CR3. We're currently at a CR2 with it. So we are going to have to figure out a way to up it to CR3. Now we can add an additional hit dice, but I think I want to try something else first. I want to increase the size of the creature. So we're going to try to do it as a giant creature. This will up its size one category. So instead of being medium, it's now a large creature. And it made it a CR3, which is what I was shooting for. Now let me see what this did to its attack. Increased its attack to +6 and a D8 +6 plus its trip attack. Now this creature will be a random encounter that can be found throughout the first level of the dungeon. It's not going to be a static encounter, and it can only be encountered once. Now that that one is saved, we're going to go to save again, save as again, and we're going to make our alpha. Our alpha is Nuanin. And we're basically going to use the same statistics for the beta. But we're going to increase his hit dice. So we're going to add a hit dice. We're going to try to get him to a CR4. Okay. That gets him to a CR4. Gives us more skill points. We'll go up here. An additional skill point. We'll not put it in stealth. We'll put it in perception, just because one skill point is not going to make that big of a difference. And we're going to go down here and no, not there. Okay, we're going to add in another ability to this alpha. Since acid is the main attack that we're going to be using for him, we're going to add weapon adds plus 1d6 energy damage. Now I know this says weapon, but this works just as well on bite attacks. We just load the weapon, select bite, and select acid. Now when we go back into print preview and look at his bite, it now has plus 7 to hit, a d8 plus 6 damage, plus 1d6 acid, and a trip attack. And we will go ahead and save that one. Now I do have a piece of artwork that I'm going to use as kind of a placeholder. If this is the correct one, yes it is. This is just going to be our placeholder artwork for our Fenris Wolf. Now a little background for the Fenris Wolves in the dungeon. After the dungeon was originally abandoned, they made their way up through the deeper levels until they reached the first level, the Kingdom of the Living Flame. There they lived for quite some time until the Goblin tribe moved in. Now the Goblins, who worshipped many of the creatures of Pandemonium, many of the deities of Pandemonium, saw the Fenris Wolves as divine messengers. So they continued to give them sacrifices, whatever they could find, sometimes goblins if they didn't have anything to sacrifice to the Fenris Wolves. This arrangement went on for quite some time until the kobolds moved into this area. The kobolds and the goblins fought for quite some time until the goblins were almost wiped out. The goblins went to the Fenris Wolves trying to get them to help with the fight against the kobolds. But since the Fenris Wolves were chaotic evil, they pretty much didn't care. And since they didn't care about the kobolds or the goblins, they just let it play out until the goblins were eventually run out of this section of the dungeon. Excuse me. So the Fenris Wolves have an uneasy truce with the kobolds. They still wander and hunt this section of the dungeon. Their fire resistance helps them stay on the kobold's good side, since the kobolds can't do too much against them unless they fight them in melee. And that is pretty much where the status quo is at right now between the Fenris wolves and the kobolds. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 creatures now. And the Fenris wolf for the Howling Halls. This section will be littered with mostly the Fenris wolves. There will be a few other creatures. I won't go into detail on all of those. I don't want to give everything away. And there will be 2 unique items designed for the alpha. These items will be in the alpha's lair. Only one of the items will be available to the players. And that pretty much wraps up my demonstration on Hero Lab and doing creatures for the dungeon. Hopefully I will get to do more of these. If anybody has any comments, please leave them in the comment section below. I will try to add as many links as I can as soon as I get finished adding more content. And hopefully we will be able to start this dungeon soon. Thank you for watching.